And we're live. Hello, everyone. It's just Jono and I. Gerry is backstage, but he just clicked the wrong X on the wrong Chrome tab, so I'm going to punish him for that. Cindy is running slightly late. Okay, I was just about to add Gerry to the stage end, but he was too busy gesticulating, so we can have another little time out.
In the penalty box.
Yeah, in the penalty box.
Right, login. The login wouldn't take you out, would it?
Well, if you you know how technology works, Gerry. It's been you click these links to join these meetings, and you should know nothing works at any point.
Oh, hello, Cindy.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good timing. Yeah, we got you.
Yep, we're all good. Cool. So yeah, it's been 2.5 months since we all were last not so socially active. We were all free on a Friday at a certain time. Well, Jono, I think it's been about a year, I think, since you last came on, but other company included. How's everyone doing? Is everyone doing good? Everyone happy?
My foot is not broken, so that's the good news.
Excellent. Mine neither.
Is it painful? Have you got lots of American drugs?
I didn't get any special American drugs this time, but I don't know if you can see, I took a hard fall. So, just ibuprofen right now, though. Gerry, what's happening with your screen? Why is
Have
I got like a black line for everybody else as well?
Yeah.
Interesting. Don't know.
Let's see.
I mean, it's
go like this and poke it away. It's a ghost.
That'll work. All right. Let me visual effects. No, I don't know.
I don't think it's a StreamYard thing either. I mean, I can see if it's a StreamYard thing.
Are you on a laptop?
I am.
Touch your
camera. It's broken.
Yeah, I did actually do that. I literally just wiped my camera.
Oh, weird.
Let me see if I turn it on and off again. Does it work?
Kick him out again.
I fixed it. No, wait.
No. Line.
Let's try again.
This is what we'll do for an hour.
Shall I just forget that he's there?
Yeah.
Leave me in the background.
He will spam the chat.
Yes, I will.
He spams the chat anyway.
Right.
So,
what are we talking about, Daniel?
Yes, Gerald. That's completely thrown me. Obviously, a lot's happened in the last 2.5 months. Let's not all try to cover 2.5 months because that's just madness. But there was one really good article published by Jono earlier this week. In my head, I keep thinking of it as if not friend, why friend shaped? And that the internet no longer being URL shaped. Those who haven't read it, I'm going to stick a link to it in the YouTube chat shortly once Jono starts pontificating with it, I guess. But,
is that expected, is it? Sure.
Yeah, it's expected. I'm going to hand the baton here, Jono, and we're all going to sit back for 5 minutes. So
nice. Well, you'll be lucky because I'm going to hand it to Cindy because it was essentially Cindy's idea that I stole and repackaged with different words. What was the gist? The gist was until very recently, the web has been based on URLs, and humans and Google and everything else has consumed the web in terms of visiting URLs and making judgments about the content contained within. And then relatively recently, Google broke that model, as Cindy has talked about an awful lot around fragment passage indexing, all the bits and pieces, all the sub-page level stuff they're doing. That's why you've got a weird box, because it's the comments, but it's like buried in Cindy. Yeah, Cindy's invisible now. There we go. So we're already past the point where everything is like a one-to-one relationship between pages and URLs and links and content and messages and signals. And I think as we move forward into a more agentic-y, soupy world, we'll increasingly see that relationship decay further to the point that really a URL is just a signpost to a bunch of assertions, and that what LLMs and ChatGPT and even Google now are really interested in are what are the statements this thing that this URL makes, and how does that relate to all the other statements that are made everywhere else, and how does that graph, what does that graph tell us about trustworthiness and authority and relevance and signals, etc. And I think the non-technical bit, which I think everyone is glossing over, which is possibly the most important thing that's ever happened in SEO, is that forces us to think not about where does my page rank for this keyword, but to remember that LLMs like ChatGPT have the whole web in their corpus and context window increasingly. So it matters just as much what a teenager says on Reddit, or what your competitor says on YouTube, or what a journalist doesn't say in an independent review, as much as it matters of what you put on your web pages if you want to be discovered and visible, etc. So the longer we continue to think in terms of pages with URLs on our website, the more disconnected we are from the reality that these things are just extracting slices of meaning and triples and statements from across the web. I think that's a much better mental model.
So to kind of avoid a trap here, because a lot of what you just said could easily be misconstrued as, so you're talking about building a brand. It is
imagine.
Yeah. Imagine that doing marketing is actually the way to achieve marketing success. But it's much more nuanced than that, isn't it? It's actually not, like you said, it's not controlling your website, it's understanding your footprint and everything else online around that.
Yeah, what if reputation management, but super technical and super driven to around building graphs of connected statements, making sure that they're reinforced, that you can't just say, "Ooh, we're the best," without having corroborating other people saying that you're also the best, etc., and managing that in aggregate rather than worrying about which keyword should I put on this page on this URL.
Yeah, Andrea Volpini wrote about this as well, talking about schema and using schema to connect all the things. And I think that the soup analogy is actually pretty good here. If you think about the way Google's talking about the web now is more in terms of tokens and pieces, tokens or passages, or right. And so it's not just that the web isn't URL shaped anymore, but the SEO isn't domain shaped anymore. And so many SEOs are obsessed with what's happening on their own domain, when I think Google and all of the LLMs are looking at things in a more holistic way now of, do all the tokens match? Where do the tokens not match? Where do they disagree? And what other tokens fit with this token? That kind of concept. So it's all kind of flowing together in a like, even you could even call it like a data lake or whatever. Like it's all waiting to be consumed, aggregated and consumed on the fly.
Or a lake of soup, as this is.
Or a soup lake with croutons.
But I kind of feel this is going to be the hinge point for the rest of this conversation. But so this also just kind of segueing from here, this for me is also one place where at the moment all the really early AI tracking tools fall down, because again they're almost like trying to take the rank tracking model and apply it to an LLM ecosystem, whereas what you want is that more nuanced net, trying to capture everything and then analyzing points within the net.
And I worry that the companies that are investing heavily in that kind of tracking are throwing money away, at least to some degree, because as personalization increases, which Google has given us a lot of signals that it will, and the other models as well seem like they care a lot about personalization, the tracking is going to be like, there's just nothing you can aggregate other than the number of mentions. And that would have to come directly from the LLM. Like, how many times were you mentioned? How many times were you linked? Anyone trying to do a model that's going to scrape it is going to fall down. That's what I think. Jono, do you disagree? You made a face.
No, I was agreeing. I was made a face because my browser's doing weird things. I agree completely.
However, I'm not disagreeing. I'm almost playing devil's advocate. We've got to have something. I mean, now we haven't got rank tracking in the same way for LLMs. We need something which has a kind of a visibility score. We need to know if it's working, if at scale. And, we basically need to kind of understand the scale of our work being done or not done or something. I mean, if I'm working with a brand and we're working on LLM visibility and getting engagement from it, then we need to basically be able to kind of turn around to somewhere senior management and say, this is basically, we've done stuff and here it's shifted this needle almost. And I mean, Dan, you've got dashboards which kind of go traffic from LLMs, and I've done the same thing for most of my clients, but I don't know they're comprehensive. I do think that a lot of the traffic is still coming in as direct. It's still coming in without any attribution, particularly from Gemini on mobile phones and things like that. So short version is that a lot of the time we've lost visibility of how well we're actually doing. And the other side of it is that, being talked about on Reddit just is such a dangerous place to kind of talk about anything.
I think that's, in part, we're still in a very, if you want to call AI an industry from a marketing perspective, it's still a very immature industry. And when it comes to things being tracked as direct, anything like that, I think that's in part because we're not yet ready out at that point of the conversation where do we need to start looking at third-party LLMs as being their own channel? And in my opinion, we do. But then the flip side of that is if we start saying, oh, ChatGPT is a channel, along with Perplexity, everything like that, the fact that AI optimization, whatever you want to call it, dip your hand in a bag of Scrabble letters and pull out an acronym, it's fallen in the lap of SEOs. If we start calling it another channel, that opens up the gateway for channel experts, because that's how marketing has always been seen. That's why we have, and I know you, Gerry, in WhatsApp early, you joked about it, but that's why we have T-shaped marketers. It's going to be seen as another strand on this weird T-shape. But in reality, it's a combination, it's a collaboration of multiple channels. And Google Analytics 4 isn't yet geared to recognize that as a separate channel. So unless we change default channel groupings, you're going to have direct, you're going to have unassigned. It's only going to be a small snapshot. And I know I built a looker, Gerry built a looker. I'm sure everybody on this call has built a looker. Most people watching have built a looker. You're only still capturing a fragment of what we're actually receiving. It's probably much greater. We just don't have that visibility.
Well, and I think too, what's going to make the change, or at least what could, is if one of the LLMs learns from what Google did and begins by embracing the SEO community and giving us guidelines and reporting tools, then they will get the share of the marketing that's tuned towards them, right? Like SEOs actually do influence in-house marketing teams around the world. And so if we know how to optimize for ChatGPT, let's say, because ChatGPT told us and they're reporting back to us, I think that's going to make a huge difference in the long run. If all Google does is say, we're not going to report on it with any special tools, and you just need to do what you've always been doing, just keep doing SEO. That's not helpful. Even if they wanted to just capitalize on a little bit of buzz, any of the LLMs could do this and get a lot of attention for it, get a lot of support for it, but no one's taken that leap.
But will anyone necessarily take that lead? Because at the moment, the classical SEO tooling is trying to take that lead, but they're trying to apply in my opinion, we're trying to apply a classic solution to a much more modern problem. And sorry, go on, John.
It's so myopic, isn't it? We're trying to brute force the same model on because it's a convenient, lazy way of thinking, which has worked to date, which is where do I rank? How many impressions did I get? How many clicks? How many visits? And the problem is that's fundamentally not how these systems work. And what we've really done is peel away the illusion that people fit neatly into individual channels and have individually sequenced events of behaviors which we can attribute back to a given team or a given marketer and pat them on the back for the good work they do, when the reality is much muddier than that. And it turns out that what really matters is influence and propensity to remember and brand salience, etc. I'm really hopeful that some of the tools are brave enough to say, actually, we shouldn't be trying to artificially pretend that we can track all of these visits and mentions, etc. And what we ought to track is things like Net Promoter Score and reputation, and how does this particular demographic perceive your product market fit or your pricing or the reputation of your CEO, etc. Those are the kinds of things which truly actually really will influence whether you show up in LLMs or not how many mentions did I get for this particular artificially structured query that we've run 50 times the yada yada and aggregated it in a way that doesn't represent reality. So I'm hopeful that we break and we go back to actual measuring of actual marketing. That would be nice.
Yeah, because like you said, thinking about it in terms of keywords and rankings doesn't work. There's going to be all these different prompts and questions and conversations that just, it doesn't follow the same model. But that's why I'm saying the only way we could actually get reporting that meant anything is if it was straight from the source, not scraping. Scraping's going to be useless. And that's why I'm worried that all the tools are trying so hard to get it right. It's going to be useless as it's personalized and as it's conversational.
Yeah.
But to Jono's point, we've always tried to brute force stuff into things. I think it was like 2-3 years ago, rather than acknowledging TikTok as just being another channel, another thing that people were using. We started trying to fight amongst ourselves as to whether or not TikTok was a search engine. And it's I think it's what Jono said, it's convenience. And I completely would love a tool to actually come out and be honest about the situation. But if you look at what like The Economist are publishing, what Verge are publishing, what our industry is kind of publishing as a narrative, in order to make sense of it, we created Geo, we created AEO, we created AIEIO, or whatever. And that's for communication going up the chain to people who are ultimately decision makers. We're kind of just creating Kool-Aid rather than having the awkward conversations, because we're afraid to admit that we don't know as much as we think we do around it.
Everything's changing, and that's great, because if it wasn't changing, we'd be bored. Particularly Jono. Jono would get bored after about 10 minutes if it wasn't changing all the time. And let's be honest, if we're, if we would be out of a job almost, we'd be able to automate it all. And yeah, it's basically great that things are changing. It's just a case of every time I blink, there's another agency rebranding itself. Every time I blink, there's someone else kind of going, actually, now we're not a SEO agency anymore. And it's like, no, if Ashley Little basically came up, well, actually it's been talked about for ages, but Ashley's kind of been pushing it. The whole search everywhere optimization, let's go with that. I mean, it just works. And then we don't have to worry about all the different acronyms and things like that. I mean, I have to admit, I am finding that I am getting most of my news at the moment from TikTok, which is absolutely terrifying, because, I'm getting into a place where, I learn more from TikTok in 20 minutes and I'm hooked on it. But yeah, we are in a different situation. We're a different world. And also Google AI mode has just come to the UK, and I've been playing around with that a lot today. And the sources that it's coming out with, I'm like, I've never heard of this source, but for this particular, client that I'm working on, I'm like sitting there kind of going, that's really weird. This is suddenly citing a source which is seemingly different from the Google's overview sources. The sources that are coming out are interesting. And I think there's going to be a lot of fun looking at why they're using those sources, because a lot of the time the sources are very shallow, not great. They're just interesting. And I'm very curious as to why they're kind of finding them.
I actually should be publishing some data on this in the next couple of weeks, because I've been scraping a lot of, I haven't been scraping, Google didn't hear that. I've been collating data from AI mode across the US, especially like in the travel sector, because I wanted to kind of have a look at the whole, you mentioned something about hidden gems about 3 years ago. Is this still a thing? And I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the larger brands, larger ones in the travel space, as you'd expect, are being cited more frequently. But then there is just this swathe of smaller sites, I think, as you call it, Gerry, like unknowns, some shallow, some built on websites which look like they're straight out of 2007. And they're getting cited less frequently, but they're still being surfaced and they're still being shown up. So it's a very different landscape. So even if we try to brute force the old model of what success looks like, it doesn't necessarily fit. And I think the other part of that is, as an industry, we're having to finally wise up and understand that we can't. I mean, it was still like 5 years ago, I was seeing spreadsheets from agencies where they were selling keywords by color and keyword difficulty. Yes, indeed, still happens in the UK. But that model's now gone on its head, because you can't sell keywords by color. Well, you can never sell keywords by color, let's be honest, but that's still a large part of our industry.
Do you want to talk about, Dan, I know you had mentioned you were kind of excited or interested in the Google Trends API launch. And you were at the event, the Google event, right?
Yeah, I was over in Bangkok. Behind the scenes, we knew that something was happening, because on the internal agenda, they had like I think it was like Google Trends, something around big news written at the end of it. So it's like, well, obviously something's happening. My prediction was if they was going to integrate trends into Search Console, because that kind of made sense for me with like doing the insights thing and being able to show yada yada. But yeah, the API looks interesting for me. The biggest thing from the API is going to be the scaled and consistent visibility. Because I was joking before you joined the course, and before I went live, I was showing the impact of the Online Safety Act in the UK and the number of different terms and topics that also appear to be trending upwards alongside it, such as VPNs. So there was that kind of interest there, but it makes it unusable. The other thing which I think will be interesting from it is it has a relative search volume that's going to come out of it as well as the normalized and scaled. So it's going to be interesting to see, once this actually is more widely used and pulled out, how far off the established third-party tools are from those numbers. And then will those third-party tools suddenly start trying to use that data to normalize their data? And then in which case, how many campaigns where we've been pointing at those third-party graphs for so many years are just going to get decimated overnight because the data's better?
Until it gets sorry, go
ahead.
Until it gets attacked, right? This is now a surface area that bad actors can weigh in on.
That was my exact concern, is immediately publishers who are less than reputable will use the API to automate AI writing of articles on topics, and it could be potentially in one direction or another, or just to create noise. So if we know that the UN made some blah, blah, blah decision that we don't want people to know about, then we can publish a bunch of articles about the UN's other decisions, and drown it out or create a bunch of noise to make it less likely that the LLMs will get the right signal. Like, there are just so many ways to abuse this kind of information, especially when you put it in an API. Like, it could have been abused with scrapers too, but this just means lazy people can abuse it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, there's other words. I mean, there are other ways to kind of automate that, not as good as what this API will enable now, but I would kind of like to think that those sites which are doing the heavy churn content and heavy lift and stuff like that to kind of pump out this guff, essentially, they won't have the it's like that the great AI content heist or whatever it was on LinkedIn, where they just pumped a load of pages onto the site, it rose, and then it fell off a cliff. I'd like to think if these bad actors do start doing that, they're going to have a similar outcome. They're going to create a lot of pages very quickly, much faster than what they have previously. They may get a little flash in the pan, a bit of success. It might look good for the bros on LinkedIn and whatever, but then they're not going to have the sustained resources from Google to maintain that amount of pages in the index. They're not going to get the signals. Google's going to fingerprint the subfolder and it's going to crash.
We can hope.
We can hope, but I think hopefully that will happen, and we'll see it like the AI content heist. I mean, it's like the share links, the Dawkins from ChatGPT that have done the rounds. Even though that's only been 24 hours old, I've had 3 people on Slack groups asking me if it's a viable tactic. And I'm like, 2 of them actually came after the fact of like, you realize they've all been removed from the index now, right? You're literally trying to plan an SEO hack on an exploit which has already been patched.
And I saw this exploit, what was it, in March when we were in Munich, Jono? I saw this and I was like, this is going to be spammed like crazy. And I'm actually surprised that it wasn't spammed, that no one automated pumping like conversations into ChatGPT and then publishing those, because they would rank with pretty good authority. It was a missed opportunity, and spammers need to maybe up their game.
Too busy filling up LinkedIn Pulse, I guess, still.
I mean, my kind of
for the spammers, do they pay better than the white hat companies?
My feeling, though, is the fact that everything Google builds, Google kills. It's like I've just posted a link in the chat thing to Google Graveyard, and I've bought so many Google products over the years, or subscribed to, or Google VPN, or you name it, basically, and it just dies. Google do not maintain the stuff that they build very well at all. It's Go on, Dan. You don't have to put your hand up.
Did you buy a Stadia as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You fool. Listen, we can't trust anything they release now. Like the API, the Trends API is a nice toy, but I can't in good faith recommend anybody integrates it into any meaningful business processes or builds tools on it or uses it to make decisions, because it won't exist in 6 weeks.
I think based on just the amount of fervor behind it and having spoken to like Daniel and Hadas and everything behind it, I think it will be maintained and it will be here for the long run. The limits and how they police it may evolve over time, but by the sounds of it, it's something that a lot of work has gone into, and it's more mechanical. I think
Dan, you said that about Google Plus.
No, I didn't. I said Google Plus is awful. Google should buy Twitter.
Google should have bought Twitter.
And they didn't, and instead Elon Tusk bought it. So
we're not going to get political.
No,
the speculation, by the way, is that all of the Google employees are KPI'd on product launches, not product successes or longevity, etc., which is why everything gets a new name every 4 weeks and rebrands and relaunches, because then somebody's hit their targets. Can you imagine? Absolutely unfathomable.
To be fair, Looker Studio has kind of improved recently.
Yeah, what, 100 years later, and now it's finally almost usable.
All right. But
I mean,
I like it.
Search Console got a new logo.
But again, they keep removing stuff. I mean, a favorite client of mine recently sent me a list of things to check in Google Search Console based on ChatGPT, and I'm like, that hasn't existed in it for 2 or 3 years. And all of the buttons, it's like, you know, what is it? The buttons, it's like, there's a button next to a list of redirects, sort of check if they're been fixed, and it's like, what do you mean been fixed? The list of redirects been fixed. It's a weird thing. There's loads of weird messages in Google Search Console for clients, and I feel like it's not really designed for webmasters.
No, it's not.
No, it's a terrible
designed
product.
for 1995 webmasters but not like massive, like independent webmasters, not enterprise.
So yeah, I'm really glad they fixed the logo.
I think they're starting to notice that though, because ultimately I think, and this is just trying to play devil's advocate with this, I think the old webmaster tools was slightly more of a better technical product, and all they've done since is the web has evolved, the number of people with sites evolved, we've evolved, and all they've kind of done is taken the same data sets and databases that our different databases don't communicate with each other, don't work in the same way, giving it a modern lick of paint, then giving it a logo. Now they're starting to give it insights. Now they're starting to pull stuff into it, which actually makes it like mom-pop user-friendly, I guess. But at the same time, we've, as advanced users, have evolved past the point where it's now even useless for us as well. So I don't really know who it's serving at the moment, but it's the only place to get the data, I guess. So
yeah, where else are you getting data?
Exactly, which is a shame. But I do think Trends API will be around for a bit.
Have you guys seen, I wanted to ask, I feel like I've seen a trend of more and more sites showing problems in indexing in Search Console. So more soft 404s, more like, and it's multiple sites. And so I'm wondering, is this evidence of Google being more stringent about what gets to stay in the index and what doesn't? Because sometimes it's happening to clients who've made no changes, and then all of a sudden a certain set is, starting to be crawled but not indexed, or soft 404 or whatever. And I mean, Google has said that they can't keep, it's not an infinite index.
Do you know what? I've had an increase in my clients kind of going, oh my God, there's so much not indexed, because actually a number of big companies out there are losing quite a lot of traffic, particularly anyone who's in the space of basically answering questions, like they've got informational kind of sessions, and they're losing traffic. And me turning around saying it's okay, you'll still get the transactions, it's fine, because Google says it's fine, doesn't necessarily wash it with them and their bosses, who kind of go, well, if traffic's down 30% this year on year, And it's like, well, yeah, we get 30% less clicks. We know it. But, they're starting to look into these numbers. And actually, I think it's kind of a good thing, because a lot of the time, this is basically terrible content that really Google doesn't want in the index. And I'm kind of sitting there kind of going, you know what? If Google doesn't want it in the index, maybe there's a reason why.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing, but I do think it's interesting, because what if the reason that pages are falling out of the index is because they're lacking some old bare minimum engagement score, because they're not getting clicks, and they're not getting clicks because of AI overviews? Like, it could be a downstream effect of AI overviews.
What also, not just those classic metrics, but what now if they've not had the classic metrics, but then they're not also being used as part of a background ecosystem for grounding or for appearing with query family, and they've been almost invisible before. And
they're zombies.
They're zombies. And they were there to edify the topic layer, right? But the topics layer is like, we got it, we're good.
Yep. Solved query spaces, etc., etc.
Exactly. Solved query spaces is so interesting. It's a really good way to think about the internet and to think about our jobs, right? Like, is this a solved query space or not? And I think that's kind of changing with how people are searching, right? Like, Gerry talked about Twitter. Gerry, do you consider, or not Twitter, TikTok, do you consider TikTok search?
I consider some of it search. I mean, basically, if I'm looking for something, it's surprising how often now I'm going to go to TikTok to actually search for something related to a restaurant or something in London that I'm kind of going to. I'll be like, so if I'm searching on it, it's search. And the problem is now for the next 2 weeks, I'll be getting how to fix my toilet, because I searched for that on TikTok for 10 minutes and, or something like that. By the way, my toilet's not broken. I'm just using this as an example. I promise. Why are you guys frowning at me? Stop frowning.
It's a weird choice, and that you only did it for 10 minutes.
No, and it's also not so much that it's a weird choice. It's just the fact you've then qualified it with my toilet isn't broken. So you've actually created a hypothetical example that is judgeable. That's what I'm more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, why weren't you searching for how to fix your Google Home, which is consistently broken, and I know is broken this week because you've already complained about it? Search for that.
It's a simple problem, basically, like functional user experience. The fact that to tick the box, the tick is in the status bar, which you can't tick, and it's just no. I'm sorry, but this is why I'm complaining about Google not maintaining stuff, because the core basic stuff of a Google Home, which is their Sorry, you've triggered me.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is why I'm not talking about that, because, I could rant for an hour.
But I think there's huge. So I'm writing a talk right now about TikTok SEO strategy, because I think there's huge opportunity there. Just with the restaurant example is a great one. There's so many food bloggers who now are food TikTokers. And it's an open, unsolved query space. But if people like you are starting a search, they're going, I want tapas in central London. It's not the company that's selling the tapas that's advertising, it's the bloggers. And so it's a really good place for people who got hurt by helpful content, who are kind of aggregators, reviewers, affiliates, to go over there and get a lot of visibility and maybe potentially monetize.
We are going back into the mom and blogger kind of space thing again, where, pay me 600 quid and in fact, it was £6,000 for one guy to basically recommend a restaurant. I was reading through some people complaining about it, and it's like, pay me £6,000 and I'll come and recommend your sushi restaurant and say the steaks are great. And it's like, I can't trust anyone anymore, but yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Like, so you're against that, but like, it seems like a good side hustle.
Yes, I will happily go and try everybody's food and get paid £6,000 instead of, reading through Screaming Frog audits.
No, but to that point, I think it's not so much like if we view it, and I agree, like we can apply SEO strategies to the platforms, but I think the wider thing is if we drop the SEO label, it's actually understanding how information works and how people work, and actually understanding that people have moved away from, both driven by technology and driven by their desires to move to different things. I'm moving towards the TikToks, moving towards, I think was a statistic that Google shared last week. Let me just try and find my article. It was around Google Lens and the actual uptake on Google Lens itself. And it
was
was
like 10 million circle to searches already, or something insane, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Huge.
but it was the actual user. So within Google itself, I've just found it now, 10% of most journeys within Gen Z on Google begin with circle to search or another AI-powered experience. And Gen Z, aged 18 to 24, is currently the fastest growing demographic in Google search but by search, they classify AI overviews and AI mode and lens and everything else in that as well. But yeah, it's quite big. Heavy users of Google, 18 to 24, issue more queries each day than any other user group, and 10% of that starts on lens.
Well, and I've been. Go ahead, Gerry.
Oh no, I was going to say I'm shocked by that stat of 10% on lens. Cindy, you were advocating that image search was going to be huge. What was it in Mexico that time when you were talking about it? And I was like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be huge, but I have to be honest, I use it a lot. Basically, do you know how often I'm in a supermarket, or well, that's a bad example. I'm in a shop and I'm like, oh, that looks quite good. I'll have a quick kind of search for it just to see if this is a good price and everything else. I find myself using Google image search. I don't use Circle, but I use the Google image search a huge amount.
I wonder if people are circling, like they're screenshotting stuff in TikTok and circle to searching that.
Mm-hmm. That's what I do. I do it on Instagram because I use Instagram Reels because I'm an old man and I get it 6 months after it's been popular on TikTok. But I mean, I use Lens. I moved house 2.5 weeks ago. I'm walking around the garden working out, do I need to kill this or do I need to water it? And I'm doing that to plants all the time. And I mean, I'm amazed, Gerry, that you didn't use the image search trying to fix your toilet either, because that would have probably told you exactly what was wrong with it.
Hypothetical analogy, because it came up in a completely different conversation. Okay, my toilet is fine.
Well, wait. So in terms of images, though, there's something controversial, and I'm not sure if you guys want to talk about this or not, but Google did just yesterday launch, I think just in the US, the virtual model try-on thing.
Oh, yeah. Are they calling it Doppel?
What?
Are they calling it Doppel or something like that?
I don't know what they're calling it, but it's actually, someone made a really great point where I think it could be useful. And what I've been saying is if Google knows how you're shopping and how you're buying, then they can target ads better to you specifically. So if they know I won't pay more than, $50 for a skirt, then they're not going to try and show ads to me for skirts that are more than $50, right? And if they don't have it in my size, maybe they won't show me the ads. All of these things where Google can make their ads more likely to convert at a higher rate, and by taking all the personal shopping information. And that sounds good, especially for advertisers, not for organic. But the point that I saw come out on Twitter this morning is someone saying, okay, great. So now all of the teenagers are going to be posting their pictures from dressing rooms. And Google's AI image search is going to be training off of that. Like, is that really what we want?
Hang on, just backstepping one moment. So basically, how much you pay for stuff and your kind of preferences. Is this why all the adverts I get are for Temu?
Yes.
They're also very aggressive. I downloaded the app yesterday because I got stuck with on an Instagram reel. I've not purchased anything, but I've now had to actually mute the notifications on the app less than 24 hours later because that thing is psychotic at the level of notifications.
Yeah, I installed it and then uninstalled it. But sorry, Cindy, is this kind of like the left-handed problem kind of thing almost?
What's the left-handed problem?
Oh, tools, AI tools can't draw somebody with a left-handed. And it's the same with the clock thing where every clock is drawn with the time at, is it 10 past 2?
10:02. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's not the concern. The concern is more of a privacy issue and like children giving away their privacy rights for the benefit of video and photo AI to help them shop, and AI training on images of girls who aren't old enough to consent for their image to give their images away, right?
I think one of the other flip sides to that is, and I'm noticing this quite heavily in the UK. So we've just had the Online Safety Act go live. and the level of ability to use AI to do age estimation on faces, and then also some of the I can't remember which website it was. There's a website which is going to be penalized if they're not guessing ages correctly through the AI side. So I think there will be an element built in where it's using that same technology to kind of judge, is like, and there's going to be parameters of certainty and confidence for this. Is this individual of a certain age? And then exclusions from certain data sets potentially. But I mean, I remember last year when they announced vertical try-on. I think it was like March, May last year. I did a video with it with Gerry, but they did it again. They showed it off at IO last year, IO this year, and there's been a few other things on it, but there's always been that kind of concern of it's processing your image in different ways, and it will be building some sort of set off it. But I think this moves towards the whole thing, like the whole pay with Google through Google Gemini, which they're launching, then Project Mariner. So using previous searches, using your Gmail history, things like that. It's that data file, when you ask Google, like, what do you know about me now, is pretty big. It's just going to balloon so much faster. And it's going to be impossible at that point to kind of step away from my ecosystem, even if you wanted to at some point.
Yeah, that's Google's moat against all the other LLMs, is everything they know specifically about you and the world at large. But that's where the other LLMs can't compete.
And in far closer to real time across all of that because of the index and because they are the gateway for all those interactions. So even if ChatGPT could do this sort of thing, they're going to be 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And potentially not at the same level of scale because he doesn't have access to all the weird data points and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys think this is a bad thing or a good thing for SEO, or totally indifferent?
For SEO people, the fun part is the fact that Google thinks that I'm a middle-aged woman that likes to buy handbags based on my search history of like all my clients and stuff. So, you know, we have to be aware of the fact that the personalization that happens to us is going to be very fucked up. But, you know, I mean, I spent a lot of time searching for doner kebabs, for instance, which I did quite like. But, you know, it was because I worked for a takeaway company for 4 years. You know, it's going to be an interesting history.
I'm starting to get an insight now as to why your toilet was broken.
I was going to say. It all makes sense now.
Yeah, we've come full circle.
But do you think that we'll be able to optimize for this, or will it just be a matter of having the database and the merchant center set up properly? I think
you can optimize. Yeah, change your prices, change your inventory, stock the right stuff, communicate in a way that audience understands. What keywords you whack on which pages are probably somewhat irrelevant, but yeah, you can optimize, you can market.
Yeah, it's square peg round holing, and I think this is something that classic SEO has plastered over the cracks of. You can have a company which is completely not relevant, not the right product fit for that customer, not right whatsoever, but through pulling levers and doing certain optimizations, be presented for it. This, if anything, actually, like Jono said, goes back to more, do you have a right product? Do you have a right price? Do you have a right availability? Do you have the right logistics? You're not going to be able to game that system anymore as well.
There was something that I wrote about ages ago in the early days of Google Shopping, and it was something that no one else had picked up on. But when you would shop for something, they added this option to click on a product and say view similar. And so I gave the example of a blue dress, shopping for a blue dress, and then you would click on a blue dress to view similar, and it was a great way for people who had dupes and knockoffs and whatever to rank for that. But what I pointed out was the view similar was using image recognition. So if you clicked on an image with a human model, it would only show pictures, like other products that had human models. And if it was on a mannequin, it would only show products with mannequins. And so that was an optimization thing, is like, if there's something similar with this new product that's like view similar, make sure that you're looking at like, what are they considering similar? And is there something we can learn by like really breaking it down? Like, does it always consider like this outfit on a blonde, but not brunette or whatever? Like, there might be some obvious glitches in the model.
That's interesting, because we've spent about 15 years now with e-commerce brands trying to slowly get closer and closer to realistic user-generated photos, imagery, not just here is the product, but here is the product on somebody who looks like you, here's the product in use, here's the product, yada, yada, yada. All of that suddenly becomes much more feasible and scalable with AI, for better or worse. I think we'll, maybe see a bit of a change in the e-commerce landscape. But yeah, that'd be really interesting to see what the fallout of that looks like, and how good a job people are doing of, should this be a mannequin, should this be a human, what ethnicity should they be, what age should they be, what body shape should they be, and whatever other dimensionality applies. That'd be
How does their recommendation engine work? Like, how does the AI in the recommendation engine make decisions? Will be an interesting thing to drill down into. And but then with personalization, especially in the fashion world, TikTok and Instagram and whatever, people have people that they follow for specifically those recommendations for body type and blah, blah, blah similarities. And so all of that could be huge in a data layer about you or about groups of people who are shopping. And that could be part of a new optimization strategy as well. But then that crosses over into social and into maybe affiliate or getting the right influencer to recommend your stuff. I don't know. It's all of that's maybe. I know I care about fashion more than you guys probably. Maybe, I'm assuming.
You've seen Gerry shirts.
Gerry has great shirts.
This is. I like this shirt. This is like a. Yeah, this was the one I bought especially for this podcast.
But I do find it interesting because it could knock out a whole nother affiliate market, right? Like fashion affiliate is still going strong, and they're sending all their traffic to Amazon, and Google probably doesn't love that.
The thing which
Sorry, I was just going to say, Cindy's sounding very, very much like the future is Black Mirror. It's like, if you've watched a few of the episodes where it's like, we know everything about you. We're going to control everything you see and how it's all going to be interacted with. It's going to be.
Sounds great. Sounds absolutely great.
As long as I like it, I don't care.
I feel like you're the wrong people for this almost. You should be like, worried about your privacy and the fact that everything you do is sculpted to make you buy more and stuff. But no, Jono, you're kind of going, as long as I want to buy that stuff, I'm all happy.
Yep. And if I didn't know that I wanted to buy it and now I do, and the app matching engine is so good that it was right, then fine.
But that's just human discovery, because you don't know you like certain foods until you try certain foods. You don't know that you like Warhammer until you invest $500,000 on something. Like it's human discovery. But I think from everything that's come out like with e-commerce ecosystem, one thing which I'm really interested to see if comes forward, it was something else they showed off last year, and they kind of showed it off with Google I/O this year, but more from a room design perspective, and that was the ability to generate AI images and AI things. So last year when they first showed virtual try-on, they also showed I think it was like a metallic puffer jacket or something to kind of search with. I would love to, if that is rolled out, I think that's both great, but then also if we can get the data that our products are being matched with that, because that could be a huge route to being able to see things like uncategorized demand, and that can then go to product teams, that can go to promotion teams, that can then influence how you, I don't want to say optimize because that'll fall into the SEO trap. It's how you actually create a better marketing channel for your products, and even how you go into product development. But I mean, we can't even get AI overview data in Search Console, so I doubt we're going to get image search data in Search Console in that way. You're on mute, Cindy.
You should have taken the advantage and not let me talk. I'm sorry. But I think Google's not going to be as handsy-outsy with all of the tools as they used to be. They don't need to. That was to help encourage us to do good things, to make their bots have an easier time and to improve their rankings. They don't need to give us anything anymore. They won't. So that's why I'm saying the LLMs need to shift some loyalties.
No, 100%. And I think the other side to that as well is it's a potential, and this is an assumption, of a Google fatigue, if you like, because I mean, Gerry says this on pretty much every podcast we do, so we're going to give him the opportunity again. How many partners does your TV share cookies with, Gerry?
I think I got a notification actually on my TV and my monitor about a day or so ago where it's like, we've updated, do you want to read through it? And I didn't read through it, so I can't tell you, but it is an insane number. It's in the hundreds, and the fact that it's sharing my viewing data, which isn't particularly interesting or dodgy, I should add. Stop it. But basically, you know, what I watch is not that different. It's generally documentaries and, you know, sci-fi stuff. But it's sharing it with like 800 people. It's 800 companies, sorry. And it's just, it isn't kind of, it's just too much. It's too weird.
I don't know. You always do strike me as the sort of person who alternates between the Sci-Fi Channel and reruns of X-Files and UK TV Gold and reruns of A Bill. I don't know why. I just feel that's happening a lot.
I'll talk to you about it later, but basically I've been rewatching X-Files. It's boring. I didn't get into it.
You actually have?
But that's Cassie's fault, so that's not my fault.
See, I was literally taking the mick there, and I genuinely hit the nail on the head that you are literally rewatching. Yeah.
Wow.
No, yeah, that's another story. Anyway.
We don't even need Google to profile us. Like, we can profile them. Here's the thing. There's that element of fatigue of like, do people actually understand? I think you said this on an earlier recording as well. We did Cindy. Like, do people actually understand when people say, "Oh no, Google's invading my privacy. There's cookies"? Do people even understand what the hell's even going on with that?
No, they don't. Well, and Google, I just posted that thing about Google crawling your drive to help answer questions. Like, that's got to violate every NDA that I've ever signed if I let people crawl and learn from my drive files. And people shouldn't be just giving that away. But I think everyone will. You
mean like connecting up your Google Search Console to a third-party software tool that can
quite, that will ingest all of that data indefinitely because you'll never ever remember to decouple it.
Yeah, I don't do that. Like, I don't do that without express permission from my clients because I've signed things that say that I won't give their data away. So I can't give it to SEMrush or Ahrefs without them actually. I don't even do it. I'll let them do it because I don't want to be. But same thing, like, I don't want them crawling, you know, all of my recommendations and all of their private documentation about their company that they're sending to me. Like, that's all covered by NDA. I can't just give it to a machine. Even if Google's not going to publish anything that they crawl, they'll learn. And Gerry, you clearly disagree.
No, I don't disagree. I'm just thinking that, you know, I increasingly do use all these tools to kind of look at the data that I use it a lot to kind of classify data that I'm looking at. If I can dump a huge amount of data in and say, hey, classify this for me, great, and everything. But the question is, is like, you know, there's my bank account is now kind of I use Starling and it's integrated an AI into it. So I can kind of go wherever I spent all my money and it'll answer questions for me. I love Notebook LLM for a lot of the information that I package together. You know, it allows me to kind of analyze everything at scale. And it does make me kind of go, well, hang on a minute, what's the implications of me putting all of my financial information, all of my personal information? You know, I have a lot of weird information in Notebook LLM for when I'm traveling because basically, Cindy, you should do this. I'll be like, where am I flying to next week? What's happening and what's going on? And Notebook LLM actually is a great way to kind of, for me to quickly check what's happening. But, you know, again, I'm giving technology all of the information about me. Is pretty terrifying. Anyway.
So on that note, then, we've got about 5 minutes left of this recording because Cindy's got a full day ahead and we've got to finally swing into the weekend over in the UK. Does anyone have any final pressing things from the last couple of weeks they want to touch on, want to rant about? Anything from the world of search?
I always do, but I've already talked too much.
You never talk too much, Cindy. Because you're talking, it means Gerry isn't.
Yeah, I'll go then.
Yeah.
Google Ads adding brand impressions as a conversion metric for branded searches, which I think is huge, for better or worse. So now you can set up and run and monitor campaigns based on when people searched, did they see my brand, etc., and then what happened afterwards. I think that's a huge step in acknowledging that certainly the ads ecosystem isn't just click and then buy, and that multi-touch attribution is a thing, and that complex search journeys are a thing. And maybe there's an outcome from this where the SEO team plays nicely with the PPC team, and we start to recognize that we have shared objectives and goals. I see Gerry shaking his head because I'm inclined to agree cynically that no, and there's a whole bunch of bad outcomes from this, but maybe it's a nice step in saying all of those kinds of build a brand, actually invest in caring about how people perceive you and think about your stuff. Those things become marginally more possible to pitch, I think now. The business stories become easier to tell, maybe.
It feels very much like we're just saying, Google, just take all our money.
Yeah, sure.
But if it works, people don't care, right? If they're making the ROI and it's cheaper than SEO, then no, the businesses don't care. But I wonder, so I have PPC friends who show me the data that they look at, and they often get much richer data than we get as SEOs. And I wonder if Google's going to make a play here that says brand mention in AI overviews, brand mention in links. So they'll get better data in paid about how their representation as a brand influences clicks on paid. And we won't get anything like that in Search Console. So we'll have to be in paid just to get the data. Like if I were Google, that's what I would do. If I were evil and wanted to make a load of money, that's what I would do.
I don't think we'll get it in Search Console purely from some conversations I had in Bangkok last week. And I think the predominant issue is the whole database system of which Search Console is built on is very linear. It's URL rendered, click impression, AI overviews breaks that model just because of the citation listing side, and AI mode destroys that with query fan out. So they're very, very different systems. I'd be interested to see if they do get that in paid, how transferable or impliable that data can be for organic after that point.
Yeah.
I mean, they do seem to prioritize. I mean, it's interesting. Their relationship with paid is interesting. I mean, basically, they hate everybody in paid, but they just want everybody to spend more money. It's almost like they treat them like you just basically should trust us, flick the switch, and you know, trust that we're going to do everything for you. But equally, they treat them. Sorry,
PMAX.
Yeah, I love a bit of PMAX. But basically, it's very much that, you know, in the future they are going to basically treat the paid people better than they're treating the SEO people.
They've always treated paid people better.
Yeah, they have always.
I know. What I'm saying is it's definitely a trend that's going to increase rather than decrease at the moment, especially the way Google's been going over the past 2 years.
So what you're saying is potentially, rather than over the last 10, 15 years, we've had people who've gone and done like 3 to 6 months working at Capita, selling ads to mom pop shops, who then leave it and on the LinkedIn claim they're ex-Google. We're now going to have people from the paid side leaving who've worked at the Capita equivalent of a modern day saying they're ex-Google AI.
Maybe. But PMAX is so important for Google and looking at their moat as well, because Google implemented PMAX right when there was this new threat of all the other LLMs replacing search, right? Or at least encroaching. And if Google puts everyone in PMAX or really pushes people towards PMAX, which is like, you know, trust us, bro, we'll decide when to show your ads, then the opportunity to leave or learn from your own data is absolutely gone, because you said trust us, bro. So, or because they said trust us, bro. So then if let's say you could advertise in the future on ChatGPT or somewhere else, you would be starting from zero rather than taking everything that you learned about how your audience searches in Google and applying it anywhere else, right? So Google owns your data when it's in a black PMAX box. They don't share it and they don't break it down. It's like you should be getting discounts because you're not getting data, but they're not doing that.
Yep.
Well, I guess on that wonderfully happy note, Jono has to run because he has
I need to go. Sorry, I'm going to call. But I love you all. I will see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Did Jono just say love you all? I feel that's the most human thing I've ever heard Jono say.
Jono, when he was just get him drunk. It's the best way to do it.
Oh, I know when he's drunk, his human side comes out. I've not seen the human side.
He wants to cuddle everybody.
Yeah, that was well, I guess on that, I nearly said bombshell like a mid-2000s Top Gear man. Well, I guess on that note, we will bring today's session to a close. Thank you to everyone who has been watching online. The numbers have been scary and quite well. And thank you for everyone who's been engaging in the chat. we will try not to leave it 2 months between the next one, although now Jono's left, this does feel like old times. Probably see Jono again in 3 to 6 months. If anyone has any questions based on what we've discussed on this, please do feel free to reach out to myself, Cindy, Gerry on Twitter, X, LinkedIn. If you DM me, I'll give you Gerry's WhatsApp number as well. If you want to pester him, we'll go with that. But until the next time, thank you very much for watching. If you do like this, please do subscribe to the channel, drop it a like, it's appreciated. But until next time, goodbye.